Hallelujah. And tonight we are reading from the book of Acts, the Acts of the Apostles. That's why it's called the book of Acts. It tells us of the Acts of the Apostles. And here we see the testimony of Stephen before the high priest and the senate of the people of Israel. Now, how did Stephen find himself in this position? Stephen was not an apostle of Jesus Christ. He wasn't among the first 12 he called, or even the later that was appointed. He was not among them. But Stephen was chosen to serve food to the widows. That was how he came to prominence. And there were 7 of them selected. Men who hated corruption, men who have godly character, were picked to serve food for the widows because there was not enough food and the widows were complaining. And so he was picked. And the Bible says that God did mighty miracles through the hands of Stephen. Here was an ordinary man chosen to serve food. And here we see God using him powerfully. Eventually, when the power of God was so strong on him, the people mobbed him. They took him to the Senate to accuse him falsely. And this is where he had a testimony to testify before the Senate. The high priest said, "Are these things so?" That means they've been questioning him and he was asked to defend himself. In fact, if you look on chapter 6 of Acts, starting from verse 12, verse 11, and Stephen, full of, verse 8 now, and Stephen, full of faith and power, did great wonders and miracles among the people. Here was a table server, a chef, a server of the table. Then there arose certain of the synagogue, which is called the synagogue of the Libertines, and Cyrenians, and Alexandrians, and of them of Sicilia and Asia, disputing with Stephen. This is Acts chapter 6, verse 10. Verse 9. And they were not able to resist the wisdom and the spirit by which he spake. Then they suborned men, or they gathered men, which said, "We have heard him speak blasphemous words against Moses and against God." And they stirred up the people and the elders and the scribes, and came upon him and caught him and brought him to the council, and set up false witnesses, which said, "This man ceases not to speak blasphemous words against this holy place and the law. For we have heard him say that this Jesus of Nazareth shall destroy this place and shall change the customs which Moses delivered to us." And all that sat in the council, looking steadfastly on him, saw his face as had been the face of an angel. See, the glory of the Lord had already descended upon him at that time. God always shows up when his children have been persecuted. Like he showed up for Daniel when it was the lion's den. Like he showed up for Aaron and Moses when they were about to stone them. So the high priest questioned Stephen and said, "What they've said about you, these accusations that you are speaking blasphemous things against God, against this temple. Are they true? He was given a chance to defend himself. And he said, men, brethren, and fathers, listen to me. The God of glory appeared unto our father Abraham when he was in Mesopotamia, before he dwelt in Haran, and said unto him, get thee out of thy country, from thy kindred, and come into the land which I shall show thee. This is the first point you have to know. Stephen began to give a testimony of how the Jewish people came into being. He traced their historical background, starting from their father Abraham. He said God called him when he was in his father's house in an idolatrous country and told him, get out of this country, get out from your people and come into the land I'm going to show you. So the first point is this: if you are going to serve God, you have to say bye-bye to what you are familiar with. That could include your family, your dad, your mom, your friends. Could include your familiar surroundings. Could include your country. God will take you out from your familiar things and put you in a neutral place where He can minister to you and train you before He begins to use you. The pastor founder of this church was lost for 3 months in the wilderness, where he fed on honey and drank from the brook, and angels ministered to him, and he was living with the wild beasts of the fields, dangerous snakes, vipers, monkeys, all the wild beasts of the forests, but they could not harm him. Several angelic visitations occurred to him during that time. And by the time he finished 3 months, the power of God had come upon him, and he began to raise people from the dead. So the first point is this: when God is going to call you, He will call you out from your people, out from what you're familiar with, so that He can truly speak to you and have your full attention. Because if you are still where you are, God cannot use you because of the influences around you, your family, your friends. No, they won't allow you to listen to God. So God has to separate you first. When He separates you, then you can listen to Him and hear His voice. Good example was Moses. When God appeared to Moses in the burning bush. Moses was a shepherd for 40 years. And one day, he was rearing his sheep and he just saw this bush burning. But he just, I said, I've been hearing this bush. No, that was not drew his attention. Not the burning bush. That happened all the time in the deserts. What drew his attention was the fact that the bush was not destroyed. I was wondering, I've been hearing this burning bush for about 10 minutes and it's still standing. That was what drew his attention. And then he said, let me go and see what's happened to this bush. God called him out. And when he got there, God said, take off your shoes, Moses. Where you stand is holy ground. Because God had descended to that place. See? So when God's about to call you, He will call you out from your family, from your friends. So if you're somebody who says, I can't leave my family, I can't leave my friends, then you're not ready for God to use you. Because God is going to use you. He's going to take you out from that family, out from those friends. You're going to be you and God alone. There, God will begin to train you and speak to you and teach you. Then you have your full attention. Because if you're still where you are with your family and friends, you cannot serve God. So, hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Genesis 12.
Yes.
Now the Lord had said to Abraham, get out of your country,
yes,
from your family, and from your father's house,
yes,
to a land that I will
show you. And he left that land, not knowing where he was going. He left his father, his mother. He went to a strange land, completely strange. Didn't know anybody from Adam. Nothing. He just went by faith because God had told him to go, and he believed God. This is the kind of faith you and I need to have. Blind faith. Just trusting God and God only. But most of us, we don't believe until we see. Say, Did God say this? Well, I don't know. I haven't seen anything yet. Well, you cannot walk with God like that. Those that walk with God believe God at His word. They take Him at His word and they go and act on it. They don't say, oh, Abraham will have said, oh, God, you asked me to go to this town. I don't know anybody there. Where am I going to stay there? How am I going to earn a living? How about my mother and my father? Who's going to take care of them? No. He didn't ask any of those questions. He just went because he believed it was God that spoke to him. So you and I need to develop that faith, because it was the faith of Abraham that made him achieve so many exploits for God. So without faith, it's impossible to please God. Said he dwelt in Haran. He came out of the land of the Chaldeans. The Chaldeans were all idolaters. They were idol worshippers. Abraham came from an idol worshipping family. So what does that tell you? Don't think that God cannot use anybody. God can call you from the worst family on this earth and use you for His glory. Amen. I watched a movie yesterday of this man in Kenya who was abandoned as a teenager, a young boy. His family abandoned him. They left him alone. He woke up and he found his whole family had gone. Father, mother, brothers, sisters, they abandoned him. He just woke up. He said, where's my dad? Where's my mom? Where are my brothers? Gone. And for the next 10 years, this boy was begging on the streets to earn a living. But God was the one that called him. And one day he met a woman who gave him a job. And from there he became very, very prosperous. So much so that even his father, who had neglected him, now had to write to him. And he went and rescued his father when they were about to kill his dad. And then God now turned him to begin to minister to the orphans on the street, because he was an orphan himself. He lived on the street for 10 years. God sent him to begin to care for the orphans. And now has a big ministry all over the world, saving orphans. He will go in the night to the streets. Anybody he sees sleeping, he will invite them to his house, feed them, house them, send them to school. That's what he's been doing. And now over 13,100 people have been saved from the streets. So when God calls us, He calls us out and then brings us in to do His will. So Abraham was called out. So don't be so attached to your family. Don't be so attached to your brothers or sisters or your father or mother and say that, no, I can't leave them. Remember that man who wanted to follow Jesus? And he said, Master, let me go and bury my dad. What did Jesus say? He said, let the dead bury their dead. You go and serve the living God. See? You must ready. Jesus said, if you are not ready to hate your family, your father and your mother, you cannot do what? You cannot follow me. Can you imagine if somebody said that now? Say, oh, this man is not a Christian. You can say that. But Jesus said it. He said, unless you are ready to hate, a very strong word. Because He knows your mother and father will lead you to hellfire. Unless you're ready to turn your back again and say, no, I'm not going your way. Let them hate you. Let them excommunicate you. Let them deny you, whatever they want to do. You head for your way to heaven. Because your father and mother, whatever they're doing, they're not going anywhere. So a good example for us. Now Abraham went and dwelt in that Haran, that land, and from there, when his father died, He removed him to the land where the promised land. Now He said He gave him no inheritance in it, not so much as to set a foot on it. Yet He promised that He will give it to him for a possession and to his seed after him, when as yet he had no child. So God promised Abraham that he was going to be a father of many nations when he had no living child. Can you imagine? So when God speaks to you, don't say, God, what is this? I don't have... No. Once God has spoken it, it must come to pass. The God that calls something out of nothing. You know, God called this earth into existence. If you go to Genesis chapter 1, you see how God created heaven and earth. He just called it out, and it came into being. You know? So, we are learning a lot about the faith of Abraham here. He said he promised that would give him, he didn't give him anything, but he promised that his children will possess it after him, when as yet he had no child. And God said that this seed, your children, your descendants will sojourn in a strange land, and that they should bring them into bondage and then treat them evil 400 years. Can you imagine? God told Abraham that his descendants will be enslaved for 400 years. And the nation to whom they shall be in bondage, God said, I will judge them, and after that after I release them, they shall serve me in this place. So the first question you have to ask is this: God knew what would happen to the children of Abraham for the next 400 years. How many generations is that? More than 4. A generation is more than 50 years. About 7 to 8 generations. God already knew it. So what I'm trying to tell you, God knows your future. He knows your end. He knows your beginning. You don't have to worry about anything. When God told Abraham had nothing. Yes, he told him what would happen 430 years later. By which Abraham had long since died. But it came to pass. Those children were enslaved. Now, why were the children enslaved? Why did God allow his children to be enslaved? For 430 years. Why? It's a good question, because you are asking yourself, why, God, are you allowing me to go through this problem? Why did God allow Abraham to Moses to wander the wilderness for 40 years before he called and used him? Why did God allow David to be hunted down like an animal by Saul for over 13, 15 years, where he had to pretend he was a madman to save his life? Why did God allow Joseph to be sold into slavery and then to be falsely accused and thrown into prison for over 13 years, and then later he used him? That was the preparation. See, there comes a promise, there is a problem and a provision. The children of Israel were allowed to suffer in bondage to prepare them to meet their God. So he gave them, and after that they come forth, they shall come to serve me. So that tells us that the whole purpose of the deliverance of the people of Israel from Egyptian captivity was to serve the living God. That was the whole reason. No, it was not for them to be gallivanting, it was to serve him. So it shows how important worship is to God. He told Pharaoh, let my people go that they might come and worship me. That's the whole purpose. Because of that, he killed all the firstborn of all the Egyptians. He killed all the firstborn of the animals. That was after 9 other plagues that he plagued the Egyptians. Simply so that his people may come and worship him. You see how much God values worship. So when you don't come to church, you're tired to come to worship God, you don't know what you are missing. God, even if you're the only one, God wants you to worship. And we're all guilty of this. Nobody can say, I worship God. No. All of us are guilty. May God give us the heart to worship him. Like this new moon festival, we should be doing it more often. They've told us that even if you're the only one, just come. God recognizes it. If you're the only one there, come and bow down your head for worship God. So, God told Abraham that they were going to come forth and serve him in that promised land. And he gave him the covenant of circumcision. Abraham gave birth to Isaac, and circumcised the 8th day. And Isaac gave birth to Jacob, and Jacob gave birth to 12 patriarchs. And see what happened. The patriarchs, that means the brothers of Joseph, they were envious of him. Why? Because of his bright star. If someone gives you a prophecy that you have a bright star, you know that there's a lot of trouble ahead of you. It's not something to laugh at or to be happy at. No. It means you're going to face a lot of persecution in your life. Because the people around you will see that star and they will try to cover that star. They don't want that star to shine. They don't want that star to achieve what was meant to do. And they would try everything to inhibit that star. That's what happened to Joseph. They knew that this was a special child. Even his parents knew it. And his father made him a coat of many colors. And of course, the brothers envied him and they sold him to slavery. He said, but God was with him. But God was with him. Doesn't matter what prison the world has thrown you to, whether it's the lion's den, whether it's a pit, as long as you're serving God, God will be with you. He will not allow that fire to consume you. He said, but God was with him. Genesis 37 verse 4, verse 11, 28. Genesis 37, 4, 11 and 28. 37, verses 4, 11 and 28. And Psalm 105 verse 17.
And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him and could not speak
peaceably unto him.
And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it his brethren, and they hated him yet the more. And he said unto them, I pray you this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves.
Okay, go to verse 11. You ready? You're supposed to read verse 4, 11 and 28.
And his brethren envied him, but his father observed the same.
Verse 28. Okay, Psalm 105 verse 17. Psalm 105 verse 17. Hallelujah.
He sent a man before them, Joseph, who was sold as a slave.
Yes. God sent a man before them. You see, if you read the experience of Joseph, you wouldn't have said that God was the one that allowed him to be sold by his brothers into slavery, that allowed him to be falsely accused by Potiphar's wife and thrown into prison. Would you say that? No. You would say, oh, it's Joseph's fault. Oh, this is that. But it was God that allowed it to happen. Why? Because he was going to use Joseph. And Joseph needed preparation. That is called the school of the Holy Spirit. It was T.B. Joshua that said that in the school of the Holy Spirit, you have to take every class. See, there is no double promotion. Why? No matter how brilliant you are, you cannot miss a class. Because every class is important. And it's true. Everything you and I go through in life, there's a reason for it. It's preparing you for something ahead of you. All those terrible experiences you are going through, pain, crying, sorrow, tears, God is preparing you for your destiny. Now, you might not see that. All you see is the pain, all you see is the suffering, all you see is the affliction. But later on, you see that, yes, God, I thank you. Now I know why I had to go through what I went through. Joseph suffered for 13 years. But one day, he was made the prime minister of Egypt. So all the suffering was worth it. You see, this man who I said was abandoned by his family and spent 10 years begging on the streets. Now he knows why that happened. Because now God is using him to help orphans like he was. So there's everything you go through is not wasted. There's a reason you're going through what you're going through. Later on you realize it says you ought to trust and obey God. And it says God was with him and delivered him out of all his afflictions. What does the Bible say? Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but what?
The Lord will deliver
Going from them. Oh, that's Psalm 34. Many are the afflictions of the righteous. Can somebody read it? Right, can you read it? Hallelujah. 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 Psalm 34 verse 17.
Okay. The righteous cry out, and the Lord hears,
Yes.
and delivers them out of all their troubles. The Lord is near to those who have broken hearts, and save such as has contrite heart. Many are the afflictions of the righteous.
Yes.
But the Lord delivers him out of them
all. You see?
He guards all his bones.
Not one of them
is broken. Evil shall slay the wicked.
Yes. So
and those who hate the righteous shall be condemned.
So that is how God delivered Joseph out of all his afflictions. That's how he delivered David out of all his afflictions. That's how he delivered Moses out of all his afflictions. So the same way God will deliver you and I from all our afflictions. Say, I receive it in Jesus' name.
I receive it in the name of
So don't be discouraged. Don't be depressed. God is coming to deliver you out of all your afflictions, as he did for David. Abundantly able to deliver, he is able, abundantly able to deliver those who trust in him. That's it. God is able. And so, God gave him favor, made him prime minister of Egypt, and there came a famine over the land of Egypt and Canaan, and great affliction. And fathers, Israel, found no sustenance, so they went to Egypt, and there they met Joseph. Now, the first time Joseph did not reveal himself to them. See, the story of Jesus is very similar to the story of our Lord Jesus Christ. The first time Jesus Christ came, he was not known to his brethren. They refused and they rejected him. But when he's going to come the next time, that's when he will reveal himself to his people, Israel. The time of rapture. So the second time Joseph was made known to his brethren, and Jesus' kindred was made known to Pharaoh. And sent Joseph and called his father Jacob to him and his kindred, 70 of them. So Jacob went down and died in Egypt. And they carried over to Shechem, and there his grave lay. But when the time of promise came near, listen carefully, which God had sworn to Abraham, and that was the time that they were going to be delivered to serve God. See what happened. The people grew and multiplied in Egypt. Then another king arose, which knew not Joseph. The same dealt wickedly with their kindred and even entreated their fathers, so they cast their young to the end that may not live. You see, just before the promise was about to come to pass, Satan rose. That was when the suffering increased more. What am I trying to tell you? Don't be discouraged. You are at the point of a breakthrough. Remember, in the night, the darkest part of the night is always before the dawn. Just before the dawn breaks and light comes, that's the darkest part of the night. So when you're visioning, you're saying, God, how much more of this can I take? Know that you're about to be delivered. That's not the time to give up. That's not the time to start weeping. No. Know that your deliverance is very near. When the suffering is greatest, you're about to turn the corner. Just before that promise of the deliverance was about to come back, another king came up and started killing their children. Who would believe at that time that God was going to deliver them? No. They say, God, I don't know about your deliverance. I don't see any evidence of this. But God fulfilled his word. What I'm trying to tell you, don't give up. If God could deliver his children after 430 years of bondage, surely he can deliver you. Have faith in God. Trust him. Believe in him.
Have faith in God.
Have faith in God, for the answer. Have faith in God. We must have faith. Has God delivered Joseph? Has God delivered his children? God will deliver us. When the suffering gets very high, know that your deliverance is very near. And know that for everything you suffered, there's going to be a double reward, because God is preparing you for your destiny. Everything you're going through today, you're going to find out later that there's a reason for it, and it's preparing you for a greater destiny. May the Lord fulfill His promise in our lives. Amen.